Welcome to Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software for the professional home builder. This video will be the continuation in a series of videos about creating purchase orders. In our previous videos, we showed how you could create purchase orders from the job budget worksheet, from the estimated cost at completion worksheet, from a vendor bid, or from items. In this particular video, we are going to talk about how you can just create a purchase order from scratch. So I'm going to click the Purchase Orders menu. And right here, you'll see that there's a button for Add New PO from Scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. First of all, you will need to select the job. This is different than all the other creating of POs because we're doing it from scratch. So we need to tell it the job and the vendor. And for a second, I'm going to just create a temporary PO to show you something for fashion glass and material. We'll come back to these, but the default cost code for fashion glass dropped in. The default cost type that goes with that cost code dropped in. These can be changed. And also for convenience, CHS drops in the title of the cost code that's selected, but you can change the title and we'll come back to that. For a second, what I'm going to talk about is this section. It's checkmarked no items. In other words, I could type in an amount here and CHS would just create one quick item for you for the PO. But let's say we're going to build our purchase order on items like we saw in an earlier thing. I'm going to go ahead, so I unchecked it. And so that means there will be items. It says since it's not checked, use the items button after you open the purchase order. So I'm going to do that real quickly. It's going to open a purchase order for a zero amount right now because I said I'm going to build it from items. So let's click the box for items. And what you'll see when you click on this is that there are no records found and that I need to add a new item. But what I'm going to do is get items for this cost code, for cost code this, and it's already set to the job H&H, meaning that when the window opens to get items, and please watch other videos about setting up or getting items, but I'm just doing this to get some items for that particular cost code. And let's just say I need, I don't know, another mirror. So that one's marked as active, and we need another hutch glass, whatever these are. And then I'm going to close that. Notice that I selected both those, and those are automatically being included in my list of items. So there's a total of these. I want to attach those to the PO, so I'm check marking them. And now you'll notice the amount up here is the total of those. I could edit these items to change the amount this time by clicking the pencil edit icon to edit the item, and if I needed to change this amount for whatever reason, it won't let me change it right now because I have it checkmarked as being attached to the PO, so I could uncheck it and then edit it and change the amount and then recheck it. There's a reason for that because there's already a PO number assigned to it. So it's asking if it's okay to update my PO to that total of those items. And I need to close this. And you're going to see it's telling me to refresh my estimated cost of completion. You can see now that we're going over the ECC because we already had some other POs. If I click on that, I can see that we had a PO. That was actually when we did in an earlier video showing how we were creating a PO from their bid. And this is our new PO that we just did. This one right here. So you can see how I did that and built that from items instead of having CHS just create a quick item. I'm going to go ahead and delete this PO. I just wanted to demonstrate what happens when you uncheck that when you make a PO from scratch. So let's go ahead. Oh, and by the way, let me do that. Notice this PO's audit here. Confirm deletion of this one for fashion glass. it showed that I went and deleted a purchase order, so that's interesting. The latest audit record will be at the top. You can use the show hide search row to look for various vendors and then click the funnel button for exact match, etc. That's not what this video is about. Let's add a new PO from scratch. And we're going to use our demo job, Vista View. We're going to use a vendor for inner city drywall. And the cost code that has been assigned to this vendor as the default cost code has dropped in. Now I could of course select any other cost code. Notice how if I select a different cost code, my cost type has changed, my PO title has changed. But we'll stick with our 5030 cost code. This is going to be for drywall turnkey. Cost type changed. Now for some reason you need to change the cost type. You can drop down and change it. Please see videos and help about setting up cost types that are on the screens for setting up cost codes. And what you need to remember as you set up a PO and assign a cost type like labor or materials is how that will affect and drop in. If you use a PO when you're entering actual costs and you attach a PO, based on what the PO cost type has, that will drop in. The cost type will affect things like insurance audit reports, etc., where the insurance auditor wants to know how much is for labor and so on. So keep that in mind as you're creating your PO. You can click this little icon right here to add more cost types if you need to, and read help. You'll see that if you click help, one of the sections is about cost types, and there's videos and help documents for that. I'll close that. Up here where you see this magnifying glass by the vendor, that means it's going to open the vendor setup window, and you can check to make sure you have addresses, or you need to look at a phone number, or you want to go ahead and assign a default cost code to this vendor so it would drop in next time. Things like that. If you make changes, then save that. Right here it says the PO title will print at the top of the PO and can be used for batching POs with different cost codes together on one PO printout. You do not have to select a PO title from the drop-down list, and you may type in new titles. So let's say we are going to, in a little while in another video, we're going to show how you batch a paint PO for painting. You batch the exterior and the interior paint into one purchase order. So we will change the PO title on both those purchase orders to paint-exterior and interior, even though we will be issuing two POs, because we need two different cost codes for those since they're in different stages. So we would just type over it. The reason there's a drop down is because maybe you want to see other PO titles you've used, and so that you can get them to match so that you can print a couple of POs on one printout like we will in the future. So type in whatever meaningful. Remember that this will print at the top of your purchase order, so you may want to change it. We do just drop the title in for your convenience. We already showed you what happens if we uncheck this, but we're going to, in this case, go ahead and make a PO that's based on a quick item created by CHS behind the scenes. That's because all purchase orders are built on items, so it needs at least one item. It will find the total of items to give you your PO amount. The first field that you see here says spec optional. And if you watch the job setup videos, etc., about the job, you'll find out that you can create various specs or measurements. Let's drop this down for a minute. Notice that if I drop it twice, never mind. Sometimes if you click this twice, if these drop off the bottom, then they'll go to the top. They'll show above the thing. But this particular job has been set up for living square feet of 4,300. It's been set up for frame square feet. So it's showing you any specs that you may have set up for the job. In this case, we're going to base our drywall on living square feet. So we want to go ahead and select this. Now notice how the quantity unit of measure dropped in as living square feet. This is just a way to select it so that you drop in some things here. And the quantity of 4,300 dropped in as the quantity. If you don't use the spec, then you could just come here and select from a whole list of measures that you have set up. You can also use this little icon here to add new measures as needed and read help about adding measures, etc. Measure codes that you might want to be using. We do supply quite a list of measure codes when you get CHS. In this case, we're going to make a purchase order with a unit price of $3.15. So that'd be $3.15 times the 4,300. And the total here will be the quantity times the unit price, and it will figure out the amount for you. If you happen to have a bid or something else, or know what it's going to be, you can of course put that in. If there were to be sales tax charged by the vendor, you can type in a tax rate. Let's say it's 8 1/4. We're going to remove that here in a second, and you can then get the total with tax, the total and the tax rate and the total with tax for the PO. We're going to set this back to 0 because we're not going to have any tax on this one. So then when I create the purchase order, the window will open, and we're going to go over some of the fields on this purchase order and talk about them and how they are used. First of all, notice that our amount is already here, and if we click Quick Item, you'll see our quick item that CHS created, and if you need to change this unit price or this amount, you can. Let's just start at the top left here. That's telling me in case I change the price, to refresh this over here. Notice that right away, one thing you can look at is the estimated cost at completion will let you know if this PO that you are about to create, which is the only PO, you can tell that by looking at that, is over your budget. Let's take a look at our original budget by drilling down on it. And what you can see is that on the original budget, we budgeted $3.10, not $3.15. But in talking to the drywall people, we've realized, that they've raised their price, so we can say Inner City raised its per living square feet price from $3.10 to $3.15. So that's right here on internal notes. I just wanted to type a note about that for anybody else looking at this purchase order and why it might be over. So I'm going to save that. And now we'll get back up to here. I just like to tell you about how this will show you overages. You can drill down to various things if there's been change orders or actual costs posted, but there haven't been yet. Okay, the first field is the PO number, and this cannot be changed. CHS provides it based on the job code and the cost code, and then a random entry number that will be assigned to it to make this a unique PO number. One suggestion I could make is that if out in the field and you're requiring POs for everything and somebody needs to give a PO number to somebody, maybe they just give the job code and the cost code, and then a 999, and then once they turn it in or call it in, you'll be making a PO for it, and it'll be just a little bit different, but if they use that PO number on it, you'll know it's one they assigned on the field. The job was already selected, and it can't be changed because our PO number's already been set up based on the job. If you use this icon here, because you realize after you print the PO or something that you don't have an address, or you want to go ahead and give some directions to the site or a legal description that would print on the PO, or something about the address is wrong, etc., you can edit the job, save it, and close it so that you can get the PO printed like you like. The next thing down is the vendor that you selected, and it cannot be changed here either. Basically, if you realize that you've selected the wrong things, you would just delete this PO and start over. This icon here lets you open, like I've said before, the vendor setup in case you realize you need to add some addresses or assign a default cost code, etc. to the vendor. If you click on this, it's in blue and underlined because you can click on it. You can quickly look at their contact information and maybe any notes that you typed on the vendor setup. Or if you click on their email, it will open your own email client to send them some sort of email that you like. This will have nothing to do with the PO, it would just open it, but maybe you would use that after you have a PO, a PDF saved for the PO or something. Now the cost code can be changed, and that's with this pencil edit icon. And notice if you hover over a lot of things, it'll tell you what this is about. I'm going to click this pencil edit icon and temporarily change this cost code so I can show you what happens when you do that. So a window has opened and it shows the old cost code, and let's change it to just the drywall labor, just temporarily. And notice that it did drop in now the new cost type associated with that and a new PO title. You can change either one of these before, and it will change all three of these when you click this button to change cost code. So let's change cost code. It said it was going to close. Now what we need to do is get back into it. We know that that was Inner City Drywall, and we know that our job was Vista View. It closed because it needed to adjust and update everything. So I'm going to use a list of POs based on a search I just did, and then I'm going to drill down on the PO number so we can get back to our screen. And what I'd like you to notice is that now the PO number has 5020 because of the drywall labor cost code selected. And I'm going to bug you just a little bit more and get that changed back to the 5030 because that's what we really want. But it's important for you to understand what happens. It's going to close this whole window so that it can reassess stuff, but our search thing is still here, so we can just reopen it pretty quickly. It's just searching for once for that vendor and that job, so we could see that. And we'll see that our PO number has changed back to have a 5030. And what I'd like you to see is this audit approval info thing. If I click to see audit records for this PO, you're going to see where I was changing it from 5020 to 5030, and it shows how it was changed back and forth. It also records when I originally created the purchase order and what cost code it was. The information over here has to do with original information. So you can see how it's tracking what I'm doing and giving you an audit. This window also will show you when it was created, the date it was changed, by who, this is me as the user, whether work has been done and approved, and who approved by. This is not an editable window, it's just so you can see anything about the PO, about when it was being approved, which we'll talk about in later videos. The next window, the next field down is the job stage that this cost code is assigned to. You should watch videos, etc., about job stages. Also under the help for purchase orders, we have a little bit of information about best setup of cost codes and job stages, and you can watch some videos about that and learn about the stage. Now schedules in CHS are based on job stages, and if you do the schedules and you click this little link, you can look at dates for when this stage 6 is drywall complete, and you can look at the estimated stop and start dates and any logs. Notice that there is a task, logs or tasks. It's assigning it to this Inner City. They have done that. So this can be some just interesting information about what's going on the schedule for that stage. Now stages are attached to cost codes, and you can approve work done on purchase orders, which will be a later video, based on through certain stages when POs are done and somebody in the field can approve work done. The next field down is the PO title, which I think we've also all discussed pretty extensively. We will come back to it. There is a question mark button here which will show you some ways that you use the purchase order title and tell you what it's for. If you'd like to have a different PO date, because you can search for POs by PO date, this is sort of the date that you want to have indicated that this PO was created, basically. Or when it's issued, you can type in a date and be sure to use 4 digits for the year. Like I talked about, as we created the PO, the cost type is dropped in based on the cost code, but you could select a different one or click this edit icon to change it. We are going to discuss creating change order POs in another video, so we will come back to this field. Any change orders that have been issued for this particular cost code would be in the drop down, but there aren't any. When we create a PO from scratch, it's automatically marked as budgeted. If this is a variance PO, you will very likely be creating it from scratch also. Notice what happens, if I select variance. There's also going to be a field that opens that asks what the reason is for the variance, and you can set up various variance reasons and produce reports based on those variance reasons. But you can use the icon and add some new variance reasons. There's a little help here about that, and you can add a new variance reason by clicking this link right here, so that you're going to batch POs together by variance reason, etc. But I'm going to put this one back to budgeted because we are really considering it a budgeted purchase order because it's our main first PO that we're doing, and we're not considering it a variance, even though it is a variance from the budget, but it's not a variance from what we're initially saying our PO is going to be. When we talk about variance POs, we will actually talk about back charging somebody for something and how that will show up when you enter new bills, so I'm not going to go over that right now. The help document that I'm working off of is behind help right here, and it's create budgeted POs, and if you click this help document, it will open a help document that's telling you about everything I'm talking about right now. The PO status is for your use as needed. Notice that it says can type in new status, and then it'll remember after you type one in, but let's just say this PO is issued. Let's just type a new one in. Next time I do a PO, that issued will be in the drop-down list. Let's take a look at our schedule again, and let's put a start work date somewhere between January 18th and January 29th. Let's look at the calendar here. Let's put a start date. Let's go to January 2016. And let's just go ahead and say that start work will be on the 18th. You could use these other fields as needed. These dates will print on the purchase order, so you might want to consider that for the vendor to see. Over here are notes to print on the PO, and you can type any notes you like. Let's go ahead and save this. Let me get back up here to the top here. I scrolled down. Save all the work we've done so far. And if you watched the videos about under help, if you watch the videos about set up for purchase work orders, notice that you can set up various PO notes and attachments that will drop in based on the cost code that you have selected for the PO. We don't have any PO notes set up, so CHS just supplied, please contact us if you have any question. Notice though that up here under PO attachments, we have an attachment already to this purchase order, and it's drywall scope of work. If we view this and then we click on this magnifying glass, we can see, if we open the file, what that is. And it's a scope of work that they set up to automatically attach to any POs created from this cost code 5030. If you click this link down here, set up default notes and attachments, you'll see there's no notes here if you click in the notes field, so no notes came in. But you can see that they've used the thing to attach a drywall scope of work as the automatic attachment for 5030 cost code. If you set up something in the older version of CHS before the web, you could click this button and drop those defaults in. That will show up down here if you happen to have some defaults for that. So you could right now, after you type a bunch of text, you might type your text here and save it, and then next time you did drywall turnkey for 5030, those notes would already be here. But anyway, the notes field, they'll be here. You can change them as needed. You can use all these bold, text, rich, and make some notes that will print on the CHS. You could get notes from other purchase orders if you like. Maybe there's some others that you can find. You can search, for other jobs, cost codes, vendors, PO numbers. Look at their notes so that you can, and read the information here so that you can copy and paste them in here. If you set up default notes and for some reason you've changed all these and you want to revert back to the default notes for this cost code, you could insert default notes. And that's what those links are about down there. I think we've seen how you can look at how the estimated costs at completion are being calculated for you. We will probably talk about it just a little bit more and show you a little bit more demonstration of that in other videos. We will come back and we will talk about printing or emailing these POs and or batching them by title or by vendor in the very next video. And thank you for watching.